Okay, so in this video, in the previous video, I taught you about motors, right? This video, now that you have a kind of general understanding of how we can use the classes, how we can use the motor class, for example, or the drivetrain class or motor group class, and then use the methods for it, giving it parameters and whatnot, and how you can use the documentation, I'm going to just explain a little bit more about how you can use other devices using the same process essentially by looking for its methods, looking for its exact class names, and then looking for the parameters you can give it. Another thing I wanted to say is you saw how I made an instance of a motor here, but when you go to devices, right, and then you click motor and then you select a port, it's doing exactly the same thing. I don't know what happened to that. It's up here or something. But yeah, oh yeah, if you see this, it did exactly what I just did. It made the same motor, but it does it automatically. So again, there's multiple ways you could do it. If you're doing it on Visual Studio Code, you won't have this menu. That's why I taught you how to do it manually. But if you're just working on the Vex editor, this is a much easier way you can do stuff. You can create instances of you can use the classes just by adding devices. Of course, you're still going to have to use methods by typing it out, but just for instantiating, it'll automatically do it here. Now, as I was saying, to use documentation for other devices, all you do is you go to this website, the official Vex documentation place. You go under Python because we're working in Python right now, and you go to whatever the device is that you want to work with. So for example, if I just want to work with the brain and see what are the methods I can do with the brain, I can look at this page, understand what is the brain. Well, the brain is just the brain. That's why it doesn't explain, I guess. But it tells you some things that you can do with the brain class. Some of the attributes, okay, yeah. So if I go to, for example, screen, I have all these options. So brain.screen.print. So I can print stuff to the screen. If I'm looking to draw a shape on the screen and I didn't know how, I would go to this screen section under the brain section because I'm talking about the brain screen and then look through its methods. So let's see, we have print, set cursor, set color, etc. Receive information, clear the screen, more writing to the screen. And then I see draw. So look, I can draw an image if I wanted. I can draw shapes if I want. I can draw pixels. Yeah, and I would just go into, for example, draw rectangle, look at some of its parameters and at what it does. Then I can look at its example. Yeah, I can look at its example. That's all I have to do. Now that was for brain, right? Let me give you another example for pneumatics. You go to the pneumatic section, and you look at what is the pneumatic. Well, the pneumatic is just pneumatic, so I guess it doesn't explain this one either. But yeah, it does tell you how to initiate though, so that's nice. Instantiate. Then I also have the methods, right? So the open method, and I have the close method, as it says, and I have these examples. There are no parameters for the open or close method. That's why it doesn't give you any. And then there's other devices. So this is an output device. The pneumatic is an output device. The brain is an input or output device. It can do both. And then just an output device could be, for example, an LED. So if I know I want to work with the LED device, I just go to LED. First, I might need to look at how to initialize it, and then I can look at its methods. So if I want to turn on the LED, how do I do it? Okay, all I have to do is dot on parentheses. That's all it is. Again, it doesn't have any parameters, so I don't have any information like that. I'll give you one final example, encoder. Encoder is another input device. So encoder, you can get the position that it's currently at, returns the current position of the encoder, and all you have to do is encoder dot position. It takes only one argument, which is units. By default, it'll just assume you want the units in degrees, but if you change it, you can probably put a different unit. If you go to this sublink, you'll see the options of what other units you could put. So I could put turns, or I could use this raw data thing or whatever. Yeah. So that's essentially how you use other devices. You can use it on a gyroscope or gyro device. You could use it for a drivetrain, as you saw me using it earlier. You can use it on the controller because you might need to receive information of the controller. For example, the axis of the joystick. So if you want to locate the position of where a joystick is on the controller, you will need to look into this. This will be very vital for your chassis if you use the joysticks for control. And yeah, there's a lot of other options. You can look into that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.